Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Sacred Path Recovery Podcast. Today, we are going to be discussing, and I always do this. My name is James Francis, and I'm coming to you from the New Mexico State University recording studio. I have my favorite professor here, Miss Kathleen O'Connor. And today's discussion is going to be about de stressing from all the BS. And I know that I myself, in the recent, let me see, since what, January 21st or even before, I've been going through a lot. And I know that other individuals out there as well have been kind of struggling with all the BS that we're facing these days that we're getting bombarded with in terms of like what's going on with our government here and, just the decisive not decisive the divisive divisionness of what we're going through. And it's really been affecting my mental stability to a certain degree on certain days too, when you hear what's going on and you just kind of get fed up with it. You get discouraged, you get frustrated, you get scared and angry. So today we're going to try to give our listeners and our viewers some tips and some guidance on how we can kind of overcome, all this BS that's going on around us. Um, so we're going to start off with, for me, the biggest problem I have is this thing right here, and I have a little app on it called YouTube, and that's my go-to for going to the news and seeing, what's going on and what our government is doing for us and what they're not doing for us. And so,
Well, there's always a lot going on. Let's just say that it's never ending. But how we act, how we interact with the news, and how it affects us, emotionally and socially, is another depth to it.
mhm.
And I know, I was telling James this morning, I was scrolling through my Instagram and I saw a few things, and I found myself just getting more and more angry and more upset, and hearing these things is really disturbing to me, a lot of what I'm hearing lately. But at the bottom of all that anger is fear.
Yeah.
Fear is at the bottom. And really, some of the greats in history, I believe it might have been Buddha, but there's others that have said there's really only two emotions. There's love and fear, and everything stems from those. So if you can look past your anger and really get to the root of the fear, then you can start to kind of work your way through that. And we've got some ways that we can do that today. We're going to talk about those.
And what we have here is 12 ways to manage election stress and anxiety. And you can't really see it, but we have our list of 12 here. And it doesn't necessarily have to be related to like election or kind of like governmental things, because we all go through stress. And I know I do. Stress of school, stress of, as Miss O'Connor said, uncertainty about what's going on and what tomorrow holds. And it's funny that we should talk about this subject today, because that leads me to something that I heard this morning. I think it's on Kung Fu Panda, where the turtle's talking to, I think, the panda dude. And he's like, yeah, yesterday is the past, or yesterday's history. Tomorrow's a mystery, but today is today is a gift. And that's why it's called a present. So, that's my mindset for today. And I was like, oh, that's cool, man. But number one on the list says, limit your access to the news to just enough to be informed and not overwhelmed. Check the news in the morning, but not right when you awake, and again in the evening, but not too close to bedtime. Shut off your notifications and avoid having the news on TV or radio during the day. Be mindful of the information that you and your children and adolescents have access to. And I know that I myself have become more self aware of what these major news media corporations are all about these days. It was brought to my attention that, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, they're all pretty much owned by these big rich billionaires who kind of push a narrative on us, and they report on what they want to report. And unfortunately, I don't think that journalism is a real thing anymore. More or less, it's just news people coming on TV and just being, commenters and putting their opinions down on whatever they want to press on to the people. So, but that's where a lot of my stress in these past couple of weeks have been coming from, just from hearing what, we're being bombarded by all these executive orders and things that, are going to affect us, the public, the working class public as a whole, in one way or another. And this isn't about parties. This isn't about Republican or Democrat or, left or right or whatever, however they define it. It's about looking out for our best interests as a whole society, because, as we stated in our Wellbrighty program, we're all interconnected. And, the pain of one is the pain of all. The suffering of one is the suffering of all. So whether or not we realize it or choose not to realize it, these things are going to affect us all in one way or another. And I know they're talking about doing stuff with our Medicaid and, our Social Security. And that's a scary thing, so.
Yeah, actually, today I ran into a lady at Smith's who was said that she'd gone 3 weeks without her diabetes medicine, and she was really struggling to keep her sugars down and really worried about what was going to happen. And so, we've got to remember we are interconnected. We are energetically connected. We are physically interconnected. Social and emotionally, we are interconnected. So when one of us is suffering, we all can feel that. If you are an enlightened human being, you begin to understand that your emotions are really your superpowers. And when you can access your emotions, you can access your abilities on a whole new level and have a whole new level of perception. And so what we want to talk about today is a little bit about, what is vibration, what is frequency, how are we interacting all the time, and by understanding the frequencies of vibrations around us. And I know it kind of sounds new agey, but this is come under scrutiny by the scientific community. So there's a lot of information now that you can find about this. And so getting back to our subject, when we get upset, when we get angry, when we maybe fly into a rage or we're crying or whatever it is, it's important to, first of all, have these emotions, because we're not human without them. And to put them away or become numb to them is also to give up your humanness. And so again, having the emotions are really important, but also being able to say, okay, stop, what's going on right now? Is there any threat to me right now at this moment? What can I do to sort of calm down and gain composure and get back to my highest self and calm down?
So number 2 on the list says practice mindfulness on a daily basis. Breathe, meditate, pray, which is a form of meditation, and or incorporate a simple yoga routine or Tai Chi or into your day. Preferably first thing in the morning, if you like taking those morning walks when it's still nice and cool. I kind of like jogging in the afternoon. That's my thing. Mindfulness will help you and your loved ones access the peace of the present moment and avoid worrying about the future. And I had a really great discussion with Miss O'Connor yesterday about my mindfulness, and I kind of had like a mind opening moment when we were discussing my feelings, And it suddenly occurred to me that I became self-aware that in these recent years, as I've come back and started practicing this kind of mindfulness and self-awareness that I'm trying to pick up as I go along. But we were talking about how I was feeling like on Sunday and Saturday this past weekend. And I expressed to Miss O'Connor, like, before I would have never, ever been able to come in here and talk to you the way I'm talking to you about my feelings, before any of this, like recovery programs and things that I've learned along the way. I always had this idea that a man was not supposed to talk about these things. He had to bottle these feelings up. He had to overcome all these challenges by himself. But what I've come to realize is that, it feels good when you have that ability to come to someone that you can trust, that can give you that kind of insight into, what they know about how the mind works and how stress can, work a number on you if you don't know how to cope with it. But it kind of amazed me that, that I have become self-aware of my feelings, because over the weekend I was kind of having this inner dialogue with myself. And I was like, well, why am I feeling like this? Because at that time, it was kind of like I just wanted to be like isolated, but I talked myself out of it. And that's another thing. And, it was pretty awesome that I was able to do that. So, but that's basically what my mindfulness means. And I know that when we get bombarded with all these things externally, for me, it's that feeling of being out of control, of being unable to, like, why is this all going on, and why isn't anyone standing up for us and doing something? That's where that hopelessness and that uncertainty comes in. And then, as you give it more strength, if you don't catch it or check it in time, it turns into a real fear. You get filled with those feelings of fear and kind of like anguish, and you don't know how to cope with it, so.
Right, and the other thing is it's emotions are sometimes catching.
Yeah.
You go into a room where there's been a fight, and something went
yeah.
down, something's going on, and you just feel it. And this is part of our intuition, our ability to sort of sense things with our senses, have a feeling of, oh man, I feel it in my gut. You have those gut instincts.
Yep.
That's where that comes from. That saying is a feeling that you have. Sometimes it's in your heart. Sometimes you feel it somewhere else, or you're just angry for no reason or upset for no reason that you can pinpoint, and yet quite possibly there's somebody around you that's upset. If you go into a group situation, everybody has their own emotions going on. And if you're an empath in any way, you tend to pick up on those feelings, and you may walk out the door with them and say, well, gosh, what, I was perfectly happy, a half an hour ago, and now I'm upset. But if you can, take a moment to ground yourself. That's putting your feet on the ground and being grateful for the earth you stand upon, and be in a moment of gratitude for all the things you have and all the things your life is about, even the bad stuff. And just be in that gratitude, and breathe, taking a deep breath. If you journal, write it down. That's very cathartic, is to write things down and to get them out. The other thing that helps ease stress is taking a big drink of water. Drinking water alleviates stress. And so sometimes in very stressful situations, you hand someone a glass of water, they drink it, they immediately calm down. And so we need to be able to become self-aware, mindful. Oh, where am I? What am I doing? Why am I feeling this way? Okay, let's take these actions to calm down, to get grounded, and to figure out what's our next move.
Yeah. And for those of you that don't know, I had a family member come to me like a couple weeks ago too, and he says, you guys are always talking about empathy. What does that word mean, empathy? Empathy means you're able to put yourself in that person's shoes, to feel what they're feeling. And I know that I can empathize with people who are struggling with addiction and substance abuse because I've been there. I can't necessarily say that I know exactly how you're feeling, but, I've been there in those dark moments, and, I can kind of, put myself, or as they say, flip the script and, put myself in your shoes to a certain extent. Number 3, it says, have a growth mindset and view challenges as opportunities to learn, grow, and foster resilience. Understand that for each of us personally, as well as the global communities, challenges are opportunities for learning, positive development. when talking with kids, give age appropriate examples to point out how challenges can lead to learning over time. For me, what that means to have that growth mindset is that we come together to, we can have these respectable conversations with our peers, with our coworkers, and that's another thing. I don't want to like try to make this seem like it's a political, like politicize it. I'm not saying that I'm a for this side or that side. But I do have coworkers that are from one side and their views differ with mine. But that doesn't mean that we go in there and argue and try to prove each other wrong. We can respect each other's viewpoints, and we have that ability to say, okay, well, I we have that ability to say like, all right, well, that's what you feel, but and deep down inside, I'm thinking to myself, yeah, whatever, but you're all wrong. So, anyways, but no, but really, it's keeping that amount of respect, and unfortunately, in this day and age, that's a weird thing because they've tribalized it to so much of an extent where if it's not one way, it's not going to be at all, and it's kind of like compromise in our government has disappeared. And this goes back to what Miss O'Connor was talking about in terms of the lady that she met at Smith's. She's talking about how her insulin prices went back up, and that's one of the things that we have to realize is that there are certain things occurring that are affecting us in a hard way. We had a price cap on insulin, and that was revoked, so insulin went back up. And I know I kind of went off topic there, but it's hard. But basically, what I was trying to stick to before I got off topic was that we can have these respectable conversations, and what that growth of mindset is that we come together and we work together to make those compromises that's going to benefit all sides, not just one side. And it's very hard these days because what we're getting bombarded with through the news, through media, television, it's like you have to pick a side. And if you don't pick the right side, then you're against all of them and they're all against you. And, but somehow, some way, we've got to be able to start changing that mindset to where we come back together and respect each other's in a way that, it's going to help us, because we're all interconnected. We're all interconnected, whether we realize it or not, So.
Right. Well, and one of the things that comes to mind is that a lot of times people believe that it's either this way or that way.
Yeah.
It's either black or white. It doesn't need to be that way. There's a multitude of shades of gray, and that means there's lots and lots and lots of different opinions, different ideas, different motivations, different ideas that are encapsulated in those shades of gray.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be this way or that way. There's lots of ways that things can interact and intertwine. And so part of a growth mindset is the idea of, okay, so this has happened. So how do we recover from this? How do we pick ourselves up if we've fallen down? How do we, get hit and then get back up and say, okay, I'm going to take that as a clue as to how to change my life or my own ideas. A growth mindset is there to sort of say, okay, so this bad stuff is happening, but out of that, we can alchemize it. We can change it. We can turn lemons into lemonade. We can make something that was bad good. And sometimes things get completely destroyed so that better things can grow from the ground. If we think about the forests being overgrown, when they do the controlled burns to move that debris from the forest, it enables the plants that are underneath, the grass, the trees, to grow, and there's enough room for them. So new growth comes after sometimes a devastating period. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying this is it's great to be in a devastating period. It's devastating to be in a devastating period. It's terrible to see the dissolution of all that you've held dear in your life. It's hard to let go of the way things have always been done, and yet out of the changes, great things can happen.
Yep.
That's a growth mindset to say, okay, so how can we make this work? How can we get better at what we're doing? How can we come together? How can we unify to show that we're dissatisfied with the way things are?
And this leads into number 4. But before I start off with number 4, this is something that I'm very, very guilty of doing all the time. And, I got checked one time by an elder. And one of the things that I'm guilty of, and I admit to it freely, is that it's very easy to complain. It's very easy to say, well, this should be done this way and this should be done. And one time I was talking to one of my grandpas and he told me, well, then do it. And that got me quiet right away. But that brought to mind, something that, we can easily do, but it takes a lot more to actually make that change happen. But if we really want it, we can make it happen when we come together and work together to do these things.
Right.
So number 4, and I'll read number 5 too as well, says, take responsibility for what you can control. We can control our own thoughts, how we handle our emotions, our behaviors, and the decisions and choices we make. Encourage yourself and your loved ones to take action and advocate for what they believe in, including volunteering, donating, voting, and more. And number 5 goes into surrender what you cannot control. We cannot control other people's thoughts, emotions, behaviors, and choices, nor can we control the weather or global dynamics. We can use mindfulness and spiritual practices to release and let go of all that you cannot control, and teach your kids to also do the same. So, that's something that I've grown into as I've gotten older. I got to be able to take responsibility and do the things that I can do when I can do them to make these positive changes for myself and others, and it's being able to step up and kind of take that, make that willing effort to not just work for yourself, but as you get older, you want to see others grow along with you. And for me, that's taking responsibility and putting forth that positive effort to not only just help myself, but help others as well. And for surrendering what I cannot control, now that's a hard part for me because there's a lot in my life that I cannot control. And there's a lot in my life that I wish I could. But, it's just gotten to the point where sometimes, like Miss O'Connor said, we have to accept the troubling times that we go through, because that's just a part of life. This past weekend, I had a big old adventure with my truck, and that's a long story for another time. But, that's one of those things that just happens to happen. And, but when I was out there trying to get out of my predicament, things started running through my head, and I was trying to justify it with the universe. Like, well, what did I do wrong? Why is this happening to me now? But, my truck is a good truck, but it's bound to happen. Things are going to break every now and then, especially when you're using it in a rough kind of way. But that's basically what it comes down to for me. Is I like the last part where it says, teach your kids to do the same. And that's not only just kids, but teach others that we can, become mindful and aware of what we can and can't control.
Right. And that, there's a lot that we can't control. And what we can control is noticing our thoughts and changing them from a negative framework to a positive framework. We can control deciding what we're going to eat and whether we're going to choose the right foods, the healthy foods. We can control looking at where our food is coming from, and if it's toxic in any way, we can start boycotting those toxic foods. Mm-hmm. We can start saying no more. We want what's healthy. We want what's right. It's our right as a human being. So you look around the world and you look at who's paying for what, and who's it harming, and who's benefiting. And if something's going on that's harming anyone, then that's the time to say no. I'm going to stand up in my integrity. I'm going to say no. Um, and sometimes that's a hard thing to do, especially if you're the only one in the crowd that's doing it.
Yeah.
But it's really important. Now, above all other times, people, you need to be aware of the garbage that's coming into your mind, the garbage that's coming into your body, the garbage you're being spoon fed by the media, by other places. Become aware of what's coming in, and whether it's valid or not. Research, find out the truth, and don't give up on that. Just keep practicing the idea of I can control myself, and I can stand up for what's right. And trust me, I hate to say trust me. That's probably not a good thing to say, but honestly, when you make a stand for other human beings and for the earth, good things will come your way. You earn a good karma. We've talked about karma before. We'll talk about it again. You do good things will come back to you. You do bad things will come back to you. And we've seen it over and over and over again. But sometimes people have to learn it by going through it.
And number 6, now I'm going to need your help with this one right here. It says practice CBT, thought stopping. Whenever your mind goes to election or any kind of like political fears, say stop to yourself and shift your attention to a gratitude practice. Give it thanks for all that is well in the here and now. Teach your loved ones to do the same. Now, I need help with that because, I'm just, like I said earlier, I'm just getting so fed up with what is going on around us. And to be honest, it just feels like I'm just one man. What can I do? And why is our government elected officials, it seems like they're just allowing this to happen, and these are those kind of like feelings that kind of are getting to me.
Right.
And they're turning my mind into a storm sometimes because I'm just letting it take control. And I know I shouldn't. But how do we overcome these things? And what is CBT?
I'm not exactly sure what that is referring to, but it's basically talking about stopping where you're at, noticing where you're at, first of all. Because a lot of times people are just ruminating and going on and on and on and talking to somebody else, and they're getting angry, and the anger spreads to someone else, and then before you know it, it's like you have a fire of people upset. But continuing to be angry and to just ruminate on that is not doing anything good. It's sort of like adding more wood to an out of control fire. It's just going to make the fire bigger. So instead of doing that, instead of adding more firewood to the fire, it might be better to just sort of stop, take a deep breath, drink some water, watch your thoughts, and basically start working from a place of gratitude. When we talk about manifestation, and I know a lot of our people that view us are interested in how do you manifest? Well, the way you manifest is being thankful for the things you want but might not have. So let's say that again. Being thankful for the things you want as if you already have them. So if you're thankful for the multitude of money you have, and you might say, oh, I don't have that money, I'm broke or whatever, that's adding, firewood to the fire by saying, oh, I'm broke.
Yeah.
You're just going to continue to manifest exactly what you keep focusing on. So energy follows thought. So that means the energy goes to what you're thinking about. So if you're thinking about and being grateful for all those things you don't have, those things will come to you because you're grateful for them. At least that's one of the laws of the universe. And as we look at the divine laws, we can start to kind of explore that idea. So the idea is if you're focused on lack, you're going to get more lack because the universe believes that's what you want. But if you focus on abundance, you're going to get more abundance. So if you focus on hate and anger and pain and fear, you're going to get more hate anger, fear.
Yeah.
You're going to get all of that. So what we need to focus on, and I say it all the time, and it's not an easy thing to do,
It's not.
but focus on the gratitude, the focus on love, acceptance, looking at and being grateful for the differences between peoples, looking at different cultures and being aware of how amazing they all are and being grateful for them, looking at the different spiritualities and different focuses and being grateful for all of them because they're all amazing in their own ways. Now, that's not to say my way is better than your way or any of that. It's about we all have amazing ways. We all have amazing differences. We all have amazing gifts to bring to the world. So let's focus on love. Let's focus on unity. And everyone says, oh, you're the light and unicorns lady. Love, light, and unicorns. Well, yeah, I don't think about unicorns that much, but I do think of love and light. And I try to attract that to myself.
Yeah, and I want to make my confession here, and it ties back into number 5 and number 2. First, practice mindfulness. Number 2, I want to touch back on we cannot control other people's thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. And once again, I got problems with the apps that we go on to, and I have friends and I have family, and don't get me wrong, I love them, but sometimes it's just, oh my God, it's just like, what are you thinking? Like, why can't you just open your eyes, pull your heads out of your A and see, come on, please work with me here, man. I'm trying my best. And it sucks because like I was sharing with Miss O'Connor yesterday, it's just that some people are so far into it that, and they've drinking so much of the Kool-Aid that unfortunately there's no change in their minds. So
Right.
what do we do in times like that when we just get so frustrated? Because I can tolerate it and I try not to bring it up, but when I'm around them. But yeah, that's basically what irks me the most. And it's kind of sad in a way because a lot of what we see on Facebook and other forms of social media are posts designed to kind of just rile up your opposition or rile up the other side and rub their face in it, whether it's true or not. And that's kind of something that we have to be mindful of, sure, and make sure that we don't let ourselves get put into that bad area. And but oh man, that's been my struggle so far this whole year, is just that, those things like that.
Right. Well, and I'm going to unfortunately sometimes I quote people and I don't remember who I was quoting, but let's just say I'm a big fan of Hay House and all of the spiritual writers that have been for the last 30 years. I've followed and read. I know at least one of them had said, if you are a bringer of the light, then how better to practice your skills than to be faced with the darkness. And so when we talk about those kinds of things, we're talking about good and evil, and we've had that paradigm of thought for, thousands of years. There's good or there's evil. Well, as you come into the new age, you start to look at, okay, well, there really is no good or evil. There just is intention.
Mm-hmm.
What is your intention? Where are you at? And what can you learn? And so if we look at, okay, if I want to be an earth angel and I want to bring love and light to the earth, then I have to be prepared to be able to face some darkness and be able to look at that and say, oh no, I want to change that. I want to use my emotions, my gifts as a human being, and my divine alchemy to change those thoughts, to change those ideas. And so when you have people that come to you and are facing you with that darkness, you can ask, well, how does that serve humankind? How does that serve humanity? How is that acting in a form of love for the universe? And a lot of times they don't realize that, because if you really look at our political scene and you ask who's being harmed, it's obvious. It's right there. And so you have to ask, am I going to align with what's happening here? Who's being harmed? Because remember, people, this can flip. I mean, you might not be harmed this time, but maybe next time it's you. And so you have to think about, where do I stand? And do I stand in this? What is my integrity? And then you have to be able to act accordingly. So, like I was saying, if you're buying from a certain store that's owned by a certain billionaire that's harming a certain group of people, then that's your cue. Maybe that's not the place to shop at anymore.
Yeah. Okay, number 7, and this one helps me a lot. I've recently, this semester, started taking a yoga class, and this yoga is one of those ones where you do the whole hums and the arms and everything. So it helps me go every Tuesday and Thursday to kind of just bring me back down and level me back out. But I've learned a lot from it. And this and back to number 7, it says, utilize the power of mantra. Whenever you experience catastrophic and worst case scenario thoughts, recite soothing mantras to yourself, such as, and this too shall pass.
Yeah. Yeah. Mantra is very, very powerful because mantra gets into the subconscious of the mind.
Yep.
And the subconscious of the mind is basically where you run all your programs. All the programs or your training, your conditioning that you've gotten as a child, like, wash your hands before you eat, or, things like that. You have a whole lifetime of things that you've been told that have gone into your subconscious. And actually, there's points of time when people have told you the wrong thing, like you have no power or something like that. And that idea has gone into your subconscious. And so you act as if you have no power, or maybe you do wash your hands before you eat, So it can be from very mundane, everyday, functional living to spiritual beliefs and ideas about men and women. But we all carry these ideas. And part of what we try to do is, and I'm a hypnotherapist, you try to undo those ideas. You try to help people figure out what the program they're running that causes them to react in fear, or to maybe act in a way that undermines or sabotages what they're trying to do with their lives. So it's very important. But with a mantra, a prayer, an affirmation, a meditation, all of these are very powerful because it can get into the subconscious.
Yeah.
That's why things like meditation, or even like we talk about the serenity prayer, saying the serenity prayer when you're faced with, being in fear or anger, or being upset with yourself, or whatever it is. Those are the moments when you get angry, when you get upset, when you don't know what to do, to say your affirmation. Like, your affirmation can be something like, I'm divinely protected, or I am wealthy in abundance, or I'm beautiful and strong every day in every way. I improve. Whatever it is, whatever you want that you don't think you are, you can obtain by talking to yourself in these positive ways and having those ideas move into the subconscious.
Yeah. And I think my mantra, and it's not necessarily a mantra, but, I have this ability to listen to my intuition now. And my intuition will be able to tell me, all right, it's time to go out into the woods and just have that time alone. And, that's basically, when I center myself, I go out into the mountains, and that's my little cathedral. And that's where I have my best thoughts whenever, sometimes I need that time, which is pretty much like on a weekly basis. But this goes into number 8, increase your self-care, unplug from technology and connect with nature, promote exercise, hobbies, and play, prioritize healthy rest, proper nutrition, moderation of substance use, and hydration. And that is a very, very true and big one. And I've realized that whatever we put into our bodies does play a significant role in how we feel. If we eat a lot of greasy fast foods, of course we're gonna feel sluggish, we're gonna feel out of it, we're gonna feel down. But we used to have a teacher here while she was the adult education director, and she's a vegan. So she had like an extra vegan burrito that day, and she was like, "You want this?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I was hungry, so it was just like mostly like potatoes and whatever. But I mean, like when I ate that thing, it didn't really fill me up, but it made me feel like good, like clear headed. And I was like, "Wow, man, that feels good." So
we we don't really realize how much food affects us. But when we talk about food, we talk about plants, we talk about animals. We're talking about a certain vibrational level.
yeah,
And those vibrational levels can impact our bodies at a certain vibrational level. So we're talking about energy. We're talking about energetic levels. So what happens is when we talk about addictions, and you say you drink or maybe you're smoking something, when you do that, you actually bring that energy into your body, and then it informs your actions, not you. It informs your actions. So we're talking about a level of intelligence that rides on that energy. And that, when I tell people, once you take that drink, you give up your choice to decide. You give up your choice of what happens to you, what happens to your body, what happens to the people around you. You give up control. And it's the same with food. I mean, we have a lot of food that's been banned from other countries that we have in our supermarkets that we can buy freely and feed to our children. And we have things like liver disorders in babies, or we have just all kinds of health issues because we basically have given the power over to these toxic foods that are controlling what we do, and these toxic foods make you crave for them more.
yep. And I know today is Fat Tuesday, and I told Miss O'Connor that I'm gonna try to once again lay off the sodas. But going back to what you were talking about with fast foods, I was watching a YouTube video the other day, and there was this guy that he said he found a old McDonald's hamburger in his vehicle, and it was like 4 months old. And he said when he pulled that thing out and he unwrapped it, it still looked the same. So whatever they're putting in those McDonald's burgers, and
Well, there's more stories about people that put it into their coat pocket and then pack the coat away, and 10 years later pull it out and there's a perfect McDonald's hamburger or something like that. So the things that are in those foods,
yeah.
that can't be healthy.
It doesn't help me that there's a McDonald's like 2 miles down the road from where I live. And I swear to God, every single day I tell myself, I'm not going to eat no more of that stuff. But at the end of the day, when you're tired and you're just like, let me just go get a couple McDoubles and it'll be all right.
And to be fair, a lot of the fast food places have tried to come up with healthy alternatives and, provide alternatives for people that are looking for those healthy foods.
Yeah, but they also got the freaking double Big Mac or something like that. And geez.
Yeah, we can have one and you just love them. You
And I
want
ate
more.
Okay, so number 9 says encourage problem-free talk, a CBT, and I looked it up. CBT is cognitive behavioral therapy.
That's right.
A talking therapy that can help people change their thoughts and behaviors. Include just positive talks, and that's why I like my Wellbrighty meetings so much, is because it's open discussions. And it gives an individual that ability to just go in there and talk about whatever they want to the group. And, you have that ear to listen. But number 9 says encourage problem-free talk, including election or political-free kind of discussions, because I've seen a lot of conversations devolve into, just straight up arguments because of political subjects. And, I don't know why it has that ability to do that to us, you
Right.
know, but that's something that we got to make sure we stay aware of if we know that it's going to cause a problem within our families, with our friends or others who, might have a different personal view.
Right. And if we think about it, if we look at history, that's, turning people against people is a play out of the dictator's playbook.
Yep.
So you want to look at, how are you being controlled? Are you being, are you being fed information that may be false, that isn't true, that sort of ignites prejudices you were born with, or that you learned as a child, or an incident that happened at one point in your life. Because it's very important to learn how you're being manipulated. We can't always trust the news. We can't always trust social
Yeah.
media. We have to be very careful about what information we're getting and where we're getting it from. Who funds it? Who funds that, and where is it coming from? And we need to be more and more aware of what's fake news.
Yeah.
It's out there.
Definitely, and that's a good point to bring up, because I wholly do believe that it is a divide and conquer tactic that unfortunately our own government uses against us. The media, and the billionaires, they want to keep us divided in order for them to be able to push their agendas onto us and make us think that it's benefiting us in some way or another, but really it's not. It's and like I said, I don't want to get into it. I'm trying to stay away from that. But so number 10, practice healthy detachment and unhook from conflict around politics. Detachment is a mindfulness strategy for cultivating healthy separation from our own negative emotions as well as those of others. We also learn that we need to avoid pinning our happiness to expectation and outcome, as it may set us up for disappointment. Detachment doesn't mean denial or not caring. It is a practice of healthy compartmentalization, so that we can continue to function personally and professionally. So unfortunately, I'm still struggling with that ability to detach from this stupid thing right here. I wish I never got one of these smartphones, because for the longest time I was holding on for dear life to that flip phone that I used to have and just send text messages. But once I got that, Jesus, now I can't go anywhere without that stupid thing. But
I think that's our greatest addiction to date, is the cell phone.
I know, and it bums you out, because when you lose it, like, you get so freaking panicked and everything.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what's worse, losing your wallet or losing your phone, in terms of stress that it causes. Because I lost my wallet the other day, and it has some cash in it, and I wasn't even like that bothered by it. But the moment I like misplaced this thing, I'm like, oh geez, my phone, I can't find it, and it's like, oh my gosh. I don't know, but that's just me. So
Yeah, those phones, they are the greatest loves of our lives, I think, sometimes.
I know, and my justification of using this thing, and the way I tell it to myself is, well, at least I'm watching educational stuff, and it's just like,
Well, on some level, for example, in the old days, everyone had to have a television, and
Yeah.
I'm dating myself, but I remember when there was 4 channels on a television, and so when you think back that, wow, you had that, and now you have the cell phone and you can access anything in the world. Anything you want to access, you can find it and get it. But again, that opens you up to, there's all kinds of people that are going to peddle their wares that maybe is dangerous, that maybe isn't healthy for you, and you have to have that discernment of who they are, where is it coming from, who's paying for it. When we look at politics, we can't really trust the news, because certain news stations are owned by the powers that be.
Yep.
And so then you look at things like Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, some of those things. You start looking at those and who's talking. And the algorithm is going to send you more of the same. So you may miss out on a certain perspective just because you've liked or followed one type of information that's coming your way. And this is what people don't understand is you may have a point of view, a perspective, a decision you've made in the past to follow this person or that person, or a decision about where you stand as far as politics, and you've liked something. So you're going to get more and more of the same. That doesn't mean that that other perspective isn't out there. It just means that you're not exposed to it. And then it means you're not getting information that you should have so that you could weigh them out and analyze and look at what's going on. So, 10% of the creators of the political content on these places, it's only 10% of the population that's creating that. They're creating like 80% of the content, but it's only 10% of the population that's actually doing that. So you need to really be aware of where the information's coming from, who's giving it to you, and then do some research, figure it out. A lot of times if you go to the party the websites, you can see how people voted, and you can look all the way back to how people voted on different things. So sometimes you think somebody stands for one thing, but they don't. They voted opposite of it. They went the other direction. So there's a lot of misconceptions out there, but don't bet your life on those.
And like I want to go back to the conversation that we had yesterday, and that's pretty much what number 10 is for me, is practicing that healthy mindfulness, that ability to recognize our feelings and really ask yourself, what's causing these problems for me? Why am I feeling this way? And am I able to detach from these things that are causing me this stress in my life, and it pays big dividends when you have that ability to start becoming self-aware of these stresses that are affecting you in this way, because you have that ability to recognize them early on before they grow into something that's way worse than what it started out as. For me, and that also goes back to what I always talk about, me going into the mountains to just get into nature and just be, alone sometimes, because that's where a lot of that detachment comes from, where I have that ability to really question myself and give myself those honest answers of what it is that's going on in my life,
Right. And, there's a lot to be said for nature. Nature is a healer. If you ever get a chance, read the Secret Life of Plants, and you will find out that so much information about plants that it's amazing about how much energy they lend to us. And in actuality, if you have a house plant and you go away, maybe you drive 10 miles down the road or whatever, the plant can still recognize when you're like 2 miles within distance of your house. It knows when you're going to come in. It knows you from every other person in the household. And they've recently done some studies. So they are really, cognizant beings. They really do have the capacity to understand us and know us and lend their energy to us. So that's just one way of healing, bringing yourself to nature. Maybe spending time with your houseplants is good. Animals are always good to pet and, play with, dogs or cats. Do what makes you feel happy and healthy. If you're watching the news all day and you're getting more and more of the same, and you find yourself getting more and more anxious and upset, turn it off. Turn it off. Limit your amount of news watching to once or twice a day for an hour. Whatever it is, try to limit it, because if you attach your happiness to what's going on out there, you're never going to be happy, because happiness comes within you, from inside you. So it's a matter of you paying attention to you and what makes you happy, what calms you down, and also how to regulate your emotions, how to figure out how to get beyond that anger or that upset, and to do something that you love to do that'll keep you healthy, because those emotions can make you sick.
Oh yeah. And basically, that's my philosophy these days, and that's what it all boils down to, is just doing those things in my life that I know are good for me, that is going to make me happy. And one of the stories that we like to share in our Wellbrighty meetings to some of the newcomers that come in is, we have this little orange frog that sits on the table. And there's a story that goes with that little orange frog. His name was Spot, and he used to live in this pond. And at one point in his life, he was green along with all the other frogs. But there was one little tiny spot on him that differentiated him from all the other frogs within the pond. And as he continued to live in the pond and do these things that made him happy and that were good for him, he realized that, that spot started growing and others started appearing. So he was kind of caught in a dilemma for himself, and he realized that he had to make this choice for himself. Was he going to continue to follow the actions of others, of the other frogs in the pond, and stay green with them, despite the fact that maybe some of the things they were doing, he was just following along and they weren't really truly bringing him happiness? Or was he going to make that choice to continue to do the things in his life that made him happy, even if it meant that he would be that one single orange frog? And, the end of the story, he makes that choice and he decides that he's going to do what makes him happy in life. But it turns out that as he does these things, the other frogs see him as that kind of shining light, as that, that positive example. And they start doing things that make them happy, and they start doing these positive actions. So they turn orange as well. And, the moral of the story is that sometimes we got to step up and be that light for others that they can follow. Number 11 goes into access support. Seek help and support from those who quell your stress and anxiety rather than provoke it. And for me, that's nature. That's Miss O'Connor here. That's my Wellbrighty meetings. And, I get a lot from it because I've learned how to utilize these things. And it's brought me that self-awareness and that ability to start recognizing how much it really does work when I go in there with an honest, open heart to want to make it, into something. When I first used to go, it was kind of like, why am I here? I really didn't know why I was there. I didn't want to be there because either I was ordered by the courts, or, it was just kind of like I was just trying to jump through the hoop for others. But, changing that mindset about what something means to you has that ability to make it into something greater. And as long as we can, start seeing the benefits of it, as I have, it really does. It makes it makes a big, big difference to me, because not only am I in there in those rooms with other people who are going through it and have been through it and are sitting where I'm sitting now, but it gives me that ability to just, like I said before, share those emotions, share those feelings. And I like coming to Miss O'Connor whenever I have these kind of issues going on in my life, so that way she can give me some advice. Or my favorite student advisor, Miss Lisa Whitmore over there. And, she's kind of like that big sister who would just tell me, just do it. I don't know why you're over here crying and belly aching for, you can do it. So, but sometimes we need that, we just need that ear and that shoulder to kind of lean on, and someone to listen to us and get that help. And
Yeah. Reach out to people, you trust, reach out to friends and family. If what brings you peace, what brings you joy. If you need to go to church, go to church. If you need to go to nature, go to nature. Sometimes you just have to figure out what works for you, and this is why I would encourage you to start writing these things down, just so that you can remember, because a week, 2 weeks from now, you may not remember what happened today. But if you have a list of things that help calm you down or reduce your stress or relieve your anxiety, you can say, "Oh yeah, I like to do this. I like to do that. I like to bake. It makes me feel happy. So I'm going to go bake some cinnamon rolls or something like that." What works for you, and also who works for you. Go to those people that love you. Talk to them about these things and get that support.
Yeah, find those like-minded people, and like I said, our doors are always open. We're always there to listen. We're always there to help, and we're not there to judge, because I've been there, and I've always said it, that I'm no better than you. And when we sit at that table, we sit in a circle, so that no one is any higher or lower. We're all sitting at the same level. And I think that's part of what
Right.
the access and support is all about.
Right. And let go of any judgment you have. There's lots and lots of
Yep.
ways to be in the world and lots of ways to practice living. And one of the things I would say is start watching yourself as if your higher self,
Yeah.
your angelic self, your soul self is looking down on you, and ask, well, why does she think that, or why did she come to that conclusion, or why are you doing what you're doing, in that moment when you're taking that bite of that chocolate chip cookie or that fudgy brownie, you're
Yeah.
like, oh, what? Oh yeah, I was gonna not do this. Okay. Let me backtrack over my thinking about how I ended up in this place.
Yeah.
Start understanding why you think what you think, and start asking questions, and start thinking critically about the information that's floating around you.
Number 12, it says practice self-compassion and empathy and compassion for others. Remember to cut yourself some slack and extend the same grace to others. Our beliefs and feelings are a normal response to our nature, nurture, and life experience. Model compassion for your children and teach them to practice empathy. And for me, this goes back to that golden rule. I want to treat others as best as I can, the way I want to be treated. Sometimes it's hard though, because you run into those people that just, but we do the best we can in life, and that's all I can do. I can do the best that I can in life, and as long as I try, things are going to work out in a good way. I like that part where it says to extend the same grace to others, and that goes into another one of those teachings that our great leader, not great leader, our Jesus told us, do not judge unless you're ready to get judged by the same measure that you judge others. So be careful about how how you judge those people. Um, but really, yeah, I do my best, and this is, I really don't have too much to say about
Right.
this, but it's a struggle sometimes, and I can tell you in all honesty that I do struggle with this sometimes, that ability to kind of empathize with my fellow brothers and sisters, because sometimes they just have that ability to kind of wear you out,
Mhm.
whether it's that frustration or kind of but we can't give up. I
Mm.
mean, it's a struggle, and I think that's the toughest thing to do, is just being able to face those struggles day in, day out, and not give up.
Right. And we have to remember we are all divine. We are all divine. And we're just at different aspects of that divinity at different times. And so being aware of that, and being aware, and talking about that is, I think, very important, that we are all special. We are all unique. We are all divine, and we're all part of the universe. Um, so one of the wise quotes I was going to end with was, did you want to say it, or should I say it?
Oh, wow, I didn't know if we were going to end now or keep
Well,
going into the loss of
I,
divine
I
oneness.
think we're probably at our limit. Is it?
Yeah, we're about there, so I think that'll be for another
I-
one, but you can follow out with that quote now.
Right. I did want to also say, I mean, we have more to cover on this subject.
Yeah,
but,
we'll be back at another time on this.
but all of these ideas came from Psychology Today website. 12 ways to manage election stress and anxiety. And so we wanted to bring that to you because we thought it was really important. So we're giving a wave out to Psychology Today website on this article. You can go look for it, 12 ways to manage election stress and anxiety. And in the words of Oscar Wilde, everything is going to be fine in the end. If it's not fine, it's not the end.
Oh yeah.
And so there's always more to the story, and we just have to keep that in mind. This is just at one part.
Yeah.
We're at one part of our story.
We're just barely skimming the surface of
Yeah.
what life is all about, I guess.
So when and where is your Wellbrighty meeting, James?
We are now hosting Wellbrighty meetings here at the New Mexico Grants campus at the Lucy Bell Mall, room 113.
114.
114. It's on the south side of campus as you come in. I'm going to put a Zoom link up for people to Zoom in if you're unable to attend in person, and everyone is welcome. It's going to be from 6 p.m. to roughly 7:30 p.m. It's an open discussion, and everyone is welcome to come.
And it's on Wednesday nights.
Yes, Wednesday nights.
Yeah, Wednesday nights, except for, are you going to meet next week? Next week's spring break?
Oh, I'll still be here on spring break, so
Okay.
yeah.
So Wednesday nights, Lucy Bell Mall, Teacher and Health Education Building. I think it is room 113 now that I think about it.
Yeah, I think it's room 113. You can't miss it, though.
It's right when you walk in the door, you turn to the left, and there it is. And like James said, everybody's welcome. We'd like to see you. Come and tell your story. Come talk. And we have snacks.
Yeah, and coffee.
Yeah.
So once again, I'm James Francis, and this is...
Kathleen O'Connor.
And, I'm thankful that you guys continue to tune in, and I hope that you guys got something from today's discussion that you can use and take and teach to others. And,
Like us.
yeah, give us a thumbs up, recommend us to all your friends so we can get those subscribers up.
And now you're under a new name.
Yes, we are the Sacred Path Recovery Podcast.
Sacred Path Recovery Podcast. So look us up. It used to be under Jimers Rants.
Yeah, Jimers Rants, but
Yeah.
people were all like, what's Jimers? And I'm like, that's me. Okay, so everyone, thanks for tuning in. We look forward to seeing you once again. We'll go over the divine laws of oneness next time. But until next time, take care, stay positive, keep that positive mindset, and, just be happy.
Yeah. Love, light, and unity, guys.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys later.
Good times.